ESPN has long been a trusted source for sports news, but sometimes the network itself becomes the story. From Steve Phillips' affair with a production assistant to Jemele HIll being fired over tweets, ESPN has been involved in plenty of scandals over the years. Steve Phillips was the general manager of the New York Mets from 1997 until 2003, before joining ESPN as a baseball analyst. In 2009, the New York Post reported that Phillips, then a 46-year-old father of 4, had an affair with 22-year-old production assistant Brooke Hundley, but broke off the fling. According to the publication, Hundley didn't take getting dumped well and allegedly engaged in erratic behavior that included calling his wife, hand-delivering a letter to the Phillips home, and even trying to contact his son by impersonating a classmate online. Phillips was ultimately fired from his on-air gig. After undergoing treatment for sex addiction, Phillips appeared on Today, stating, "I made some mistakes. I'm fully responsible for what I did." Hundley was also fired and sued ESPN for defamation over claims she hadn't cooperated with the network's internal investigation. In 2015, a hacker broke into the database of Ashley Madison, an online dating site specializing in marital infidelity. The site matched up married people looking to cheat on their spouses and is known for its infamous tagline,
"Life is short. Have an affair."
The hack exposed the names, credit card numbers, and chat history of the site's 30 million users, stirring up chaos for the cheaters who had been exposed. As it happened, some of those exposed Ashley Madison users were ESPN employees, and not just a few. Data analysis performed by Deadspin initially uncovered 39 accounts that had been registered using ESPN email addresses. When that analysis was expanded to search for ESPN IP addresses as well, Deadspin counted 101, including producers, vice presidents, and top executives. Deadspin's report didn't identify any ESPN employees by name, but did single out a producer who spent in excess of $2,000 in his online search of a cougar. Former pitcher for the Boston Red Sox, Curt Schilling segued into becoming a baseball analyst when he was hired by ESPN in 2010. Schilling found himself on the outs with his employer in 2016 when he shared a meme on Facebook displaying his view of the transgender community. The meme was accompanied by an insulting caricature of a transgender woman. That was hardly Schilling's first controversial social media post. The previous year, he was hit with backlash for comparing Muslims to Nazis, and then for sharing a photo of a t-shirt recommending that journalists be hanged. The anti-trans sentiment, however, was the final straw for ESPN, and Schilling was fired. Erin Andrews spent 8 years as a correspondent for ESPN. In 2008, during her tenure with the network, Michael David Barrett booked a Nashville hotel room next to the one in which she was staying. Using a peephole he created, Barrett filmed Andrews unclothed in her room. After unsuccessfully attempting to sell the footage to TMZ, he posted it online. Andrews sued and was awarded $55 million in damages in 2016. While testifying at the trial, Andrews revealed her ESPN bosses gave her an ultimatum, forcing her to do a television interview in which she would have to relive the whole painful experience. According to Andrews, her superiors recommended Good Morning America. She eventually agreed to appear on Oprah Winfrey's talk show. Andrews said in her courtroom testimony,
"I talked to her producers, I told her I didn't want to do it, but this was the only way I was going to be put back on air. And so we went to the Oprah show."
After exiting ESPN in 2012, she joined Fox Sports. In addition, from 2014 until 2020, Andrews co-hosted Dancing with the Stars. Jemele HIll began working for ESPN in 2006 as a columnist for their website. The journalist eventually became an on-air personality, leading to a short-lived gig as co-anchor of SportsCenter. Over the course of her years with ESPN, Hill didn't always see eye to eye with her bosses. That was very apparent when a tweet about America's 45th president led to backlash. She wrote on X, "Donald Trump is a white supremacist who has largely surrounded himself with other white supremacists." She went further when she addressed Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones' statement that he would bench any player who kneeled in protests during the national anthem. Hill wrote on X, "Cowboys have a huge national following. Lots of black and brown folks are Cowboys fans. What if they turned their backs on them?" The tweet ultimately landed her a 2-week suspension. An ESPN rep said in a statement, "In the aftermath, all employees were reminded of how individual tweets may reflect negatively on ESPN and that such actions would have consequences." In 2018, Hill exited ESPN. She explained her decision to leave during a 2022 appearance on Kenny Mayne's Hey Mayne podcast. She said, "I wasn't a good fit for the SportsCenter culture, definitely not a good fit for the management that was overseeing SportsCenter at the time, and I got tired. I got really tired of fighting every day to be myself."
I just felt like it was just time to move on.
Making its debut on ESPN2 in 2003, Cold Pizza broke new ground in sports programming by serving up a 2-hour live morning show, airing weekdays and targeting male sports fans. In 2007, however, Cold Pizza made headlines when Rita Ragone, who was a makeup artist on the show, filed a lawsuit alleging she was sexually harassed by co-host Jay Crawford and panelist Woody Page. Not only did she allege that the two had created a hostile work environment around her, she also claimed that Page had once grabbed her buttocks with such force that she was propelled forward and into the air, according to the Denver Post. Page denied everything, as did the network. The following year, a judge tossed Ragone's lawsuit, but not because of the network's denials. The lawsuit was tossed because Ragone signed a document when she was first hired by ESPN back in 2005, which denoted that any claims of sexual harassment would be taken to an arbitrator. By then, Cold Pizza was already long gone. Weeks after Ragone launched her case, ESPN reconfigured the show's format and gave it a new title, ESPN First Take. Former NFL quarterback Sean Salisbury went on to become a football analyst for ESPN until it all went horribly wrong. In 2007, Deadspin reported that Salisbury was the actual subject of a gossip column from CBS Sportline's Mike Freeman. Freeman wrote, "The NFL analyst who shall not be named that took a picture of his penis with a cell phone camera and has shown it to numerous uncomfortable women, then was suspended by his network for it." Salisbury was subsequently suspended by the network, and in 2008, ESPN declined to renew his contract. Salisbury sued Deadspin, but in 2010 confessed that the story was actually true, telling USA Today, "I was ashamed and I didn't want to say anything. I thought it would go away and let my ego get in the way. A stupid mistake can cost you, and this has really cost me." Of ESPN's many scandals, the resignation of network president John Skipper is arguably the most dramatic, given it involved both drugs and blackmail. In the 2017 statement announcing he was resigning, Skipper stated, "I have struggled for many years with a substance addiction. I have decided that the most important thing I can do right now is to take care of my problem." In a subsequent interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Skipper confirmed that the substance in question was cocaine, and that he felt he was able to keep his drug use separate from his responsibilities at the network. Then, it all came crashing down. Skipper explained, "In December, someone from whom I bought cocaine attempted to extort me. Under threat of being exposed, rather than buckle, he instead met with Bob Iger, CEO of Disney, ESPN's parent company, and came clean. It became clear to both men that Skipper had placed Iger in an untenable position, and his only option was to resign. While his drug use cost him his dream job, Skipper acknowledged that the extortion attempt was the ultimate wake-up call that made him realize that his cocaine use needed to end immediately." Skipper admitted to The Hollywood Reporter, "I acted very foolishly. It made me want to seek help and get this out of my life." In 2017, some public backlash was generated when statues honoring Confederate figures from the Civil War were removed. The whole thing came to a head in Charlottesville, Virginia, when a group of white supremacists staged a rally protesting the removal of a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee, which turned violent during a clash with counter-protesters. Amid this fraught scenario was a University of Virginia football game set to be broadcast on ESPN. Ahead of the game, ESPN quietly sidelined announcer Robert Lee because of concerns that his name was too similar to that of the Civil War general, who died in 1870. ESPN said in a statement to the New York Times, "We collectively made the decision with Robert to switch games as the tragic events in Charlottesville were unfolding, simply because of the coincidence of his name." ESPN was hit with backlash from conservative news outlets.
I mean, even if it was Robert E. Lee's great-grandson, he didn't do anything wrong, and you shouldn't punish people for something they didn't do.
However, the network insisted there was no liberal agenda at play, simply an attempt to protect Lee, an Asian American, from being caught up in a firestorm. An ESPN spokesperson told Sports Illustrated, "No politically correct efforts, no race issues, just trying to be supportive of a young guy who felt it best to avoid the potential zoo." In January 2024, a shady scheme involving ESPN's slew of Emmy Awards, which went back decades, was unveiled. The Athletic reported that producers for ESPN's College Game Day submitted fake names of non-existent people for Emmy inclusion, with the ruse reportedly going back as far as 1997. The reason was that if the show won, ESPN would receive multiple extra Emmy trophies for those fake people. The fake names bore the same initials as the show's on-air talent, and since the on-air personalities weren't eligible for Emmy consideration, those extra statues would be modified with the on-air people's names engraved into them. The statues would then be presented to them. The people given those fake awards were none the wiser and didn't realize the Emmys weren't legit. After the scam was revealed, ESPN was forced to return 37 Emmy Awards to the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. ESPN said in a statement, "This was a misguided attempt to recognize on-air individuals who were important members of our production team. If you or anyone you know needs help with addiction issues, help is available. Visit the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration website or contact SAMHSA's National Helpline at 1-800-662-HELP 4357.